I'm going to give you a recipe, hopefully in the next time, about how you can use your herbal assets effectively. Now, I'm in academia, and so I am the Dean of the College of Nursing at West Coast University, which is health sciences university in California, Texas, and Florida. And hopefully, in order, when you complete your recipe today, you're going to be able to look at new approaches for developing critical thinking and critical analysis using virtual. And boy, have we been forced into that. A new teaching strategy that you might use. And I realize not everyone is in academia, but I think this is applicable to education in the service setting. And then the pros and cons of the teaching strategies. And I think one thing that is, my concern, and we could have talked about it for quite a great deal of length, is that the students are learning differently since the pandemic. They may still have the same number of hours, but they were, and Chris kind of alluded to telehealth, telenursing, simulation. That's another thing. Those things have taken the place of direct care in academia. So what have been the pros and cons of these teaching strategies that we've had to utilize since the pandemic? Because guess what? They closed the campuses. And I'm sure those of you in service know exactly what happened, because you had students coming to your hospitals. They were displaced. They couldn't come because the hospital service setting didn't know what to do with the influx of the COVID patients, and how was their staff going to deal with this. Now, I always say we have two hands, students have two hands, and they, could have, I believe, helped and maybe reduced the fatigue, but the decision, was to go to virtual. And literally, academia in 48 hours went from fully on ground and at the hospitals to virtual learning. So again, thinking about that as we go forward, and I'll share what some of my faculty did. I do have, 5 campuses in 3 states, and the creativity was amazing. So we're going to make some lemonade out of these lemons that were, given to us. That's why I have lemons in my background on my screen. You see my lemons, they're over there on the back of my screen. But anyway, we went, as I said, from synchronous to we went from on ground to synchronous online. We were not, they weren't doing their own work by themselves, but there were a lot of challenges to that. And it was interesting that one of the statistics was that 70% of respondents to a survey said the pandemic was driving a digital transformation at their institution. You heard Anita talk about Moxie and having to do things different. And higher education, they're planning just exactly what technologies do we need to give the faculty. Access to Zoom accounts. I didn't even know what Zoom was. I mean, Teams, all these different types of technology. We had to get the accounts to the faculty so they could continue to communicate with the students. Now, here's some of the questions that we asked in academia, and sort of asking them after the fact. 48 hours, we were online and from on ground. And did we really prepare the students for online learning? They probably were better prepared than the faculty were in terms of the ability to do that kind of learning. Are we looking at the learning outcomes? How often were we looking at the learning outcomes? Were the results different when we were virtual? Still are to some degree. We're only up to 50% back on campus. How have the learning outcomes been, affected? How did we prevent the students from feeling isolated? One of the things when I think about that one is that if they were working from home, they had their children running around, they weren't in their daycare, they, had to work maybe more than they had before, or they were in their cars, they didn't have internet. I mean, you have a lot of things that the factors that impacted, and they couldn't hug each other. They're very caring individuals, and how do you keep them from feeling isolated? Did we have a learning community? Now we have learning communities where the different content areas get together, but did we have one for the online environment? Now we have online programs, but this was taking the on ground and putting them online. So did we have to change, how did they meet? How often did they meet? Was the learning bite-sized and spaced? And when I think about the bite-sized, I have to tell you, when Chris was alluding to, taking time, breaks, stretching, I think one thing, and I'm, going to mention this to the ResearchGate team, we need to put 10-minute, breaks and build into the schedule so people can stand up and stretch and refresh that cup of coffee. But how did we space the learning? We kept, and I'm not proud of this, we kept the 5-hour classes online, not in class. Wow, how did that, work out? What was the learning affected? What did the students do to show that they had learned? And I'm going to share with you some of the creativity of the students, but what were the procedures? I mean, they can sit in the back with their laptop up of the classroom and they're actually on Amazon or Google or doing something while the talking head is up in the front of the room. How did it change when now they were staring at you on a screen? I mean, it's kind of embarrassing if you're on a screen and you're on your phone at the same time or whatever. It's a little more of a challenge. And then what about feedback? How did we do discussions? Many of you probably have been in online educational programs, but how did they give us feedback? How did we know? Was there time for fun? I mean, fun in the classroom, but the talking head, I mean, so it really changed the way we thought about things. So thus the hat, we're going to talk about the recipe that my faculty used in order to get through this. I will share with you that back when I was in the classroom, and while Chris may have 32 years, I have 50 in nursing. 51 actually, since I graduated from nursing school, and about 47 or 48 of those years have been in higher education. I'm only 39, so I don't want to see anything but she's 39 years old out there anywhere. But, when I was teaching, I'd sing to my students the signs and symptoms, never could climb the stairs. In sports I had no part. Why can't a good, kind, moribund donor offer me a second-hand heart? And whoops, there went my hat. And then on we would go to talking about heart surgery, transplant, whatever. Then I had to do a lecture on liver failure. I don't like liver myself, so I decided I would cook it in the classroom. And I had all the ingredients and we developed, liver failure because I burned it. We had esophageal varices with chopped up onions, all kinds of strange things. And of course, about not too far through the lecture, down the hall comes the campus or the program director wanting to know what was I doing. I didn't tell her I was going to cook it. So it kind of created a smell. So we've all, been very creative, but I'm going to share with you what some of my faculty did. So the first ingredient to a successful recipe, obviously, is the meetings became virtual. And as I mentioned, sometimes the students didn't have the internet access, or they had issues, or they having to share them with their family members. And we didn't have Starbucks initially to them to go to because a lot of the places were closed. So you have to be able to, think about, do you have the tools, the technology that you need to be successful in this environment? The second ingredient that we found we had to do was we had to have a system where the students and faculty could communicate. Now I'm going to tell you, students don't check their email, they text. And so we had to come up with a system where they could text this between faculty and students, information constantly. We had over, and I call your attention, over 60,000 messages per day on the app that we chose, which was Remind. And it was widely adopted by faculty and students. And it was really key to success because, whoops, I have a 45-year-old daughter who never checks her email. Now, if I text her, she'll answer. So that was a very fact. So we had to have some way to communicate with them. Then we had to sort of give them some of the technology, as I mentioned. And this is talking about Studio in a Box. Unfortunately, our instructional technology team was right there to help the faculty to create video series. You know, they could do writing or medication math assignments. They were available to the students, to the public. We are on YouTube, folks, and we shared them so people could see. And, you know, likewise, you know, Chris mentioned, and you know, and Anita, both, as far as the resources that are out there for us to use. This just, again, is just showing, you know, one of the, you know, some of the things that the professors, you know, Melissa Cuelto developed the database. I mean, she really embraced the Studio in a Box technology and the educational videos. And again, as I said, it's out there on YouTube. Then we took, you know, that they couldn't come to campus. How do they learn the skills? And I'm sure what you're all seeing is the new grads are a little bit apprehensive about some of the skills. You know, they had a lot of hours, but it was done, you know, virtually, virtual sim, virtual skills. This is an example. It's a skills check doing a wound care dressing change. And a year ago, we had, you know, 250,000 views on my, sorry, I should take this off. It's on my headset doesn't do well with it. Anyway, and we're now over 1 million views. So if, you know, trying to go out there, and it was very, very valuable. The students could actually practice the steps. I know one of the, you'll laugh, hopefully you're, you know, the nurses will laugh. One of the skills they were trying to teach was catheterization. And so the faculty member made a box, put a hole, had a hose, a garden hose, and the students, one of the students says, "How can that be?" Well, the point was that you're not going to be catheterizing anybody with a garden hose, but you could certainly go through the steps in terms of preparing. And so they really got quite creative because they didn't have the models or access to them. At a later point, they could come in and get some of the models and take them home and use them in class. So we had lots of opportunities for them to create and available. We also, the recipes that we were doing were tested by faculty innovators. And we had the opportunity to engage. This is Gabby. And Gabby, if you were to call up my university and admissions office, you might end up talking to Gabby. Gabby's is not a real person. She's a, you know, artificially very intelligent. But anyway, she's a virtual advisor, but she knows everything that you'd ever need to know. So we had to try out some of the innovations, and you know, kind of the graduate students seemed to like Gabby a little bit better, but we had a lot of innovative techniques so we could get back to people in a timely manner. This is, I'm going to share with you several pediatric examples because I think the pediatric faculty really jumped into this opportunity. Here are the faculty members doing a complete head-to-toe assessment. And I love the fact that the students would do their own. They would make their own video, and then they would take it back, play it back, and they didn't realize how many times, you know, they may have scratched their nose or touched their hair or put their pen light in and out of their pockets until they sat and watched. So it was a very valuable to film what they were doing compared to when they're in the hospital. And sometimes they're not even able to do all of these procedures depending on the unit. And so they did it on their family. Sometimes they did the exams on their pets. They were quite creative, but they could play it back and talk through the steps that they were going through. Here's another one of the pediatric faculty. She created this video of herself performing various sections of her head-to-toe assessment on her children, and then she put in questions in the video, and I love this. Her little boy proceeded to sneeze in her face. You know, so there are some downsides to some of these, but this could be a real example. So what do you do if your patient, your pediatric patient, sneezes in your face? this is this one, and again, these the videos will be available, or the session that is being videotaped, and you'll be able to play this over. These are a number of links. The internet, I don't know how we made it without, you know, being able to check Google or YouTube or whatever, but here were a number of connections that my faculty provided, that of things that they used in their lectures, you know, MindMeister, you know, Theory Burst podcasts every week. They, you know, they would get worksheet packets, and, you know, here was a homeless man talking openly. Sorry, um, I'm conscious of the time. But anyway, so these are opportunities that you can find out there to support. And what I'm going to share with you, and this is where my anxiety creeps in, is this interactive simulation. Hopefully, there we go.
This is just catching a glimpse of what the virtual scenarios in pediatric simulation look like in session 2. You are expected to verbally interact with the presentation. You know, students' goals are attained through verbalization of the nursing process implemented in a pediatric virtual setting. Okay, from hand hygiene to assessment and administration of pharmacological and non-pharmacological interventions, as well as evaluation or the reassessment of your patient. Please watch for the cues and tips and list any questions or concerns you may have. Again, we try our best to create a platform where students are able to meet expectations, targeting both cognitive and affective domains of learning. This is also a great opportunity to practice good communication skills, SBAR skills, delegation, and even professionalism as nurses, even in a not so ideal learning environment. Let's start.
Simulation may begin. Hi James, my name is Mia and I will be your nurse today. Let me just wash my hands and I'll check your ID band. Can you tell me your name and date of birth before I do anything else?
My name is James Scott and my birthday is Christmas 20XX.
That's great. You're such a smart kid. You know your birthday. Do you know where you are?
You don't know where we are? We're in the hospital.
All right. I would like to check and see if everything's working okay. It's called vital signs. All right. I will just use this little stethoscope and use this little cuff on your arm that's going to give you a tight little squeeze. I just need you to be still for just a couple minutes and it will be done. Can we do that?
Okay, is it gonna hurt bad?
Nope. Just imagine a little bear hugging your arm. Ready? Here you go. Are you having any pain? I have a cute Lego face scale here and the smiley face says that you don't feel any pain, all the way to this little mad crying face that tells me you're in a lot of pain. So which Lego face best describes your pain?
My chest hurts a little. It feels like mommy's hugging me a little tight.
Oh, well, just relax and breathe normally, okay? Right now, can I listen to your lungs? Because you're telling me that it feels a little tight. So can I do that?
Okay.
All right. Now lift up your gown just a tidbit, okay? You may just feel a little cold on your chest, but it shouldn't hurt. Just breathe normally for me.
Mild suprasternal retractions noted at this time, but no other signs of distress.
Well, let me just look at the doctor's orders to see if there's anything I can get to help you with your breathing, okay?
Okay.
All right, let me first look at patient info. That's perfect. Let me go back to electronic health record. All right, let's just go ahead and check the doctor's orders. Okay, I have a parameter here that says to use any non-invasive oxygen equipment to keep oxygen saturation above 94%. Any pending labs or diagnostics? Okay, everything else is pending except for our CMP, so let's look at that. So let's go back to our electronic health records. And this time I want to check the MAR just to see if I have any medications, routine medications that I need to give. All right, so I have 3 medications. One is a PRN for fever and temperature above 100.4. So right now, his vital signs pretty stable. He does sound wheezing, and he does complain of a little tightness in the chest. So I'm deciding to give him the albuterol nebulized. All right, hi James, I am ready to give you your medications, okay? So let me just pull the computer really quick, just so I could check it to make sure that this is your medication, all right? So let me go ahead and open the computer and pull it close to you. So I have albuterol 2.5 milligrams, and this is nebulized every 2 hours for wheezing. This medication may make you feel weird, but know that I'm here watching you the whole time, okay? It looks like a little mask with a mist coming out of it. You just need to relax and breathe. Tell me your name and your date of birth one more time.
My name is James Scott, and my birthday is Christmas 20XX.
Awesome. All right, so let me go ahead and hook this up to the machine and put it at 8 meters. Do you have any allergies right now?
I can't have eggs and strawberries because I start itching, and my face will look like a strawberry.
Do you want to lie down or sit up while I do it?
I'd like to sit up because it's easier to breathe.
How does that feel?
It feels okay.
Hi James, I'm back. I need to check you again to see if your medications helped. How are you doing right now?
I feel so much better now. Thanks for your help.
Well, is there anything else that I can help you with?
No more. Thanks for all your help.
And I don't know about you, but I find that to be a pretty effective learning experience if the students are at home. So that's just some of the things that are isn't that good.
Anytime. Well, I put that little
Anyway, so there's
Really?
more.
Just
There's
catching a
more.
glimpse.
Whoops, I'm trying. There's more. Sorry. They can calculate medications. I'm not going to play this video, but it's the same. It's a series that's out there that simulates calculation, takes them through the different. It's
welcome back to pediatrics.
okay. We don't want any more pediatrics. But anyway, so the other strategy that the faculty used, where they would build, the students would build a piece of apparatus. In this case, showing you a picture of one of the students who built her own chest tube. And then she could describe in a video what the steps would be. And it actually was a very effective way for her to learn about the management of a chest tube. She made this at home and then would videotape back to her faculty and demonstrate that she did understand what the nursing actions would be. We don't have to wear our masks today because we're virtual, but what do you miss most with the masks that we've had to wear for, to protect others? Well, I love this slide. It's the smiles. And I think that, we want to be sure to have fun, as it said, and, just sharing with you some of my students, one of the key things when you're having virtual learning, and even today, it's really nice to see the faces and the smiles when you're teaching virtually. And when the faculty were dealing with the students, it was really important that they turn on their cameras, call the students by names, and they found that the participation really increased when they did that. And so those are, it was a change. And I, went into a classroom during the pandemic where they were experimenting. They had some on ground in the classroom, and the bulk of them were virtual. And, I think it was difficult for the faculty member to engage the two different delivery methods with this at the same time. And I kind of went to the back of the room and the students are on Google. So anyway, we can't, you need to active learning strategies. It's been really a challenge, and I just have to give a shout out to my service partners. We need to work together to transition these students from the academic experience to to being a contributing member of your team. And I think that's the challenge, is how are we going to support these new graduates? And I hear things every day, and I just applaud those of you in service that are making it possible for them. They've got the critical thinking. They just don't have the experience with the skills. So if you need to reach me for any questions, there's my email, rnelson@West Coast University. You can also reach me through the university or the research gate. And I'm going to stop sharing because I want to see all of your faces. And again, it's a challenging time, and I love, yes, smiles and expressions. That's really, really very, very important. What is the name of this? Oh, you're talking about the pediatric video. I will what I have a document that I will send to the team for ResearchGate that has all the links to these. There's so many things out there, and we'll get it for you in terms of the information on the website. You like the liver cricking? Me too. It was definitely did change the environment, no pun intended. Okay, so I'm just looking. Thank you. Appreciate